The Highway Life, based on a true story.
Coming along?
Mom said not to be taking a ride from no strangers.
This is the bus to the Highway Life.
Well, I'm Bolo. Bolo Biggs.
I'm Joey Smalls. It's about to go down.
Oh, what's up, guys? What is going on? What the fuck was that noise? How long y'all been waiting here? 3 months? Y'all been waiting, hanging out for me for the last 3 months? Man, let's just get started, y'all. Alright, so what's good? First thing first. Let's salute the ones who died, the ones who gave their lives. America. Alright, so check it out. We're just gonna jump right in. I don't know how long the rain is gonna hold up. I just unloaded the bus. Check it out. Got all my wood. Got 2x4s, 2x3s, 8-footers, 10-footers, 16-footers, 12-footers. What else? I got 2x10s for certain areas. Specifically my battery bank. I'm gonna be all over the map because I'm trying to get shit done quickly. I'm not gonna finish today, but I wanna talk to you guys about framing. Traditional framing versus what we are doing on the bus. So traditionally, well, let's go back a second. You got to figure out what the purpose of your framing is for. Then you can decide how to apply certain applications. Are you framing to hold up another level, another floor? Are you framing to hold up a roof, like a home? Load-bearing walls, basically. Or you framing to hold insulation and to hang a wall? So you gotta decide what you're doing before you can apply whatever application you're gonna go with. Let me show you what a home framing looks like, so you understand what the strength, so you can understand how strong your walls or your floor needs to be. Let me show you. Additionally, when you do a home, you would frame in this technique where your stud end is laid sideways. This is a 2x4, and your runners are standing up. I think I'm saying that correctly. Versus being flat. Because of strength, this is always going to be the strongest way to lay your wood. Kind of like a patio deck. This is how, if you look underneath, this is how it's run. And then you will lay your plywood. However, we are going with this technique because of space. Now, you would still have maybe brace it at the end, but I'll show you guys that later. So this is the technique that we have to go with on our wall and on your floor. So I've set this up here. So let's pretend the concrete is your floor, and then you want to start framing your floor. Well, as you can see here, if you lay it flat like what we are trying to do, the middle is going to bulge down on you. However, in a regular home, when you frame like this, which is like that, it is damn near impossible to get it to move, bending. That shit won't bend. So this is what we are doing, and the only way to combat that is where you place your wood. The placement of your wood and the size of your wood is going to help tremendously on that bending that bending effect. I have a lot of soft spots on my floor in the back, just because of the way it was built. If I stand on it, I can feel it's not giving out, but it's soft. Some of you guys already know what I mean on your bus. The best way to attack that, being that we're laying on 2x4s or 2x3 sideways, flat, is to either go bigger, wider, and or find where the frame placement is on the actual bus. If you look underneath the bus, you'll see two ginormous steel beams that run to the back. That's the body, the middle body of the bus, what your entire box sits on. And then you'll have some that runs this way to help support and distribute that. That's where you want to lay your framing. For example, from here to here, there is nothing in the middle that runs this way. I don't know why they built it that way, but that's the way it is. All this here, when I step on it, is soft. So you want to utilize the outside frame of the bus that they've created for you out here and all the way on the side. And if you actually look, there will be bolts throughout your bus, and it's one along a nice line throughout your bus. I have one line here, one line there, another there, another there, and one in between the seat. Take advantage of the fact that the bus is already framed, and a strong frame at that. So the entire box is stronger metal. Where they run the beams across, sideways is strong metal, and then the middle too, underneath, you'll see it, that holds up the entire box of the bus. If you get underneath, the wheel under the bus, this is the two main steel that I was talking about. Let me camera focus. This one and the other one on the other side. That's what the whole box sits on. Now, you will also have rails on the outside of the box that you can utilize, and this here are the beams that I'm talking about that run from one side of the bus to the other side of the bus, and you will actually see it staggered out, spaced throughout the bus. Here's the next one that I showed you guys, and so on and so on. That's what you want to utilize to lay your frame, your wood framing. You want to utilize those beams underneath. Now, traditionally, in a home, you're gonna frame it, standing up like I showed you. It's gonna be every 16 inches on center, meaning when you measure 16 inches, the middle of your 2x4 that meets it, when you screw it or nail it, it's gonna be at the center of your 2x4 that is connecting to it, and then 16. Well, again, there's nothing traditional about us doing the bus, so don't worry about going every 16 inches. Place your framing where you think you need your support, or where you need to have something to drill your plywood to. Throw traditional out the window, because there's nothing traditional about doing your bus. That covers why we are placing our wood the way we are, laying flat versus standing up. Traditionally, when you do your framing, you're gonna do it with a 2x4 on a home. A lot of folks are worried about the weight of their wood, So they go down to 2x3s. I don't think they're doing it wrong. I just personally worry about strength of framing. The whole point of framing is you're holding up support, you're walking on it. Well, I'm talking about the floor specifically, but you can do it same thing for the wall. So because we are compromising laying it flat versus standing it up, I'm going with bigger wood. On my bus specifically, ooh, excuse me, I'm not even going with a 2x4. I'm going with 2x6. My bus is not as wide as most folks, but I have trust issues with some of the framing areas that they came up with. When I walk on it, it's soft in certain areas, but I want to build the best floor that I can frame wise. So in certain areas I'm going 2x6. I know in the last video before my break I mentioned to you the weight of wood, 2x3 versus 2x4. Let me grab my notes real quick. I don't know why there's so many planes today. I mean, I'm next to the airport, but it is just like super airplanes today. Can barely hear anything. Okay, so I had to run in and grab my notes. I thought it was very important that I address this with you guys about weight of framing, because I hear it quite a bit from folks when they are building, when they're using 2x3s, 2x4s, 2x6. So here you go. The reason why I'm going with 2x6 on mine, obviously I mentioned it, is because the structure on my bus I'm not confident about, because they're missing things. The weight isn't distributed well, so I am compensating for that. So just to give you guys ballpark numbers, and you can research it yourself. So your typical wood that you would get from, say, Home Depot, just your dry standard 2x4s. Now pressure treated is going to be a lot heavier, but just your normal everyday go in the store buy lumber type of deal. So a 2x3, which is actually sold as a 2x3, is actually 1.5 by 2.5. They're always going to take a half off. So be careful when you are measuring. Don't assume that your wood is 2x4. Apparently back in the day, I think like in the 40s or 50s, some genius came up with the idea, hey, let's cut it off by a half an inch and we can deliver more wood or some shit like that. I don't remember what the whole story was, but if you're not careful, you're gonna mess up some measurements. And a 2x4 is actually a 1.5 by 3.5. 2x6, 1.5, 5.5. Anyways, let's go back to the weight. So a 2x3 weight is 0.94 pounds per feet. A 2x4 is 1.28 pounds per feet. And a 2x6 is 2 pounds. Hold on, guys. A 2x6 is approximately 2.0 pounds per feet. Now the runners that I have going to the side, from side to side, it's about 7.5 pounds. I'm sorry, 7.5 feet. So if I went with a 2x3, it would weigh approximately 7 pounds. A 2x4 would weigh 9.6 pounds, and my 2x6 weighs 15 pounds. So I'm using 6 pieces to distribute the weight of my floor, which comes out to about 90 pounds, just a little under 90 pounds. Now, if I went with a 2x3, which is the smaller, and I feel weaker wood, that's 42 and about 42.5 pounds. So we're talking about almost a 48 pounds difference Significant, right? Not really. So if I went with a 2x3, I save 48 pounds versus going with a 2x6 for the length that I'm using. I mentioned this back a few months back. Come on, man. I mentioned this a few months back, how much water weighs. 5 pounds, God. 5 gallons of water weighs approximately 42 pounds. 42 pounds, 5 gallons of water. So if I increase to a 2x6 versus a 2x3, it's 48 pounds difference. 5 pounds of water weighs 42 pounds. I'm never gonna have more than 10, maybe 15 gallons of water at any given time. I'm just not. The average bus person, skoolie build, that I've seen has about 40 to 50 pounds, 50 gallons, come on, of water in their skoolie. 40 gallons of water, 40 gallons, weighs approximately 336 pounds. I've seen people take it all the way up to 100 gallons. Do you know how much a 100 gallon weighs? No, I don't either. 840 pounds. So, I don't want to hear, well, Bolo, if you take it to 2x6, you're going to weigh the bus down. Fuck, if I won't take showers, but I'm going to have a strong floor. I'm going to have a strong foundation. I'm going to have a strong framing. Use your judgment on why you do things. Don't do it just because, oh, I heard so-and-so said, oh, don't put 2x3, 2x6s in your shit, 2x4s, 2x whatever. Do your research. I'm going what is best for my needs. I'm going what is best for my situation. Do I recommend it to you guys? No, not really, but I'm giving you information that's going to help you make a wise decision. Okay, so let me just get started. There was one other thing that I wanted to bring up, but I can't think of it off the top of my head. This is why you take notes. Or prepare notes. I'm just winging it, guys. It's been a while since I've done a legit video. I look around a lot because I'm constantly thinking, and I'm trying to remember things to share with you guys. Yeah. Oh, shit! Your boy just won. Thermal transfer. The transfer in temperature due to the climate. First thing first, your fucking bus is metal. When they start construction out in the real world, a lot of these buildings that go up starts with metal. How many people actually knew they freaking insulate that metal, protect that metal, or break that metal in between before they lay the next of walls? I don't know if I said that, but I don't fucking give a fuck. You have to break the thermal transfer. Otherwise, you're gonna feel the effects of whatever the outside temperature is on the inside through your walls. And that's coming in through the metal, which is a metal frame, metal sheet, through your screws on your nails, through your wood, through your panels, into your joint. The code isn't, let me try to explain this the best way I can. Warm temperature is naturally attracted to cold environment. So when your mom says, oh, don't let the heat out, your heat is going towards the cold, then your cold takes over your living situation, your living environment. That's why the temperature drops significantly in the basement. If you don't have your, hold on, so if your basement in older homes specifically, there you get, trying to use big words, specifically in older homes, they weren't built that well. They didn't know much about thermal transfer and so on. If your basement is constantly colder than everybody else's, it's because you really have either bad insulation or they didn't do that well on thermal break. If you feel on your walls in your basement, certain areas are colder than others, it's because that's where your lumber is. Your lumber is touching the concrete without a thermal break in between. Moving along on thermal breaks, I noticed a lot of folks use plywood strips, fairings, or whatever you want to call it, as a thermal break. You can't use that. Aren't you just increasing the width, the thickness of your 2x4 or 2x3? You're using wood as a thermal break for your wood. You haven't done anything but increase the thickness of your wood. Wood is a conductor of temperature transfer. So how do you resolve this? Well, in regular build, they have steel where it's already insulated around. I can't think of the name of it off the top of my head. You guys will have to do the research, but I don't got that kind of money. But there is a solution, an easy solution. They've come up with a thermal break tape. Insert your shit right now so that people can see it, Bolo. They've created a thermal break tape that goes onto your metal framing before you lay your next piece of material. It helps with moisture, controlling your moisture. It helps with thermal transfer, temperature transfer, and it helps seals a little bit. And it actually has an R value. I think it's like 0.26 or 0.36 or something like that, which isn't significant, but that's where it starts for it to start working, to block, to limit, to block, to eliminate thermal transfer. Unfortunately, your boy thought that you could just get that in a regular store, because when I was doing all the research, all these stores popped up. I never actually clicked on it. I had to order it through Amazon, which is the easiest place, versus Sweden or Australia. But it's like 2 weeks out. So what I'm gonna do today, jumping ahead, what I'm gonna do today is cut as many pieces as I can, know where I'm gonna stagger it out, pre-drill what I can, and kind of just lay out my framing until I get my my thermal break tape. So I'm sorry if I'm jumping around. I told you guys, that one of the toughest thing to do is trying to figure out how to put this video together so that it's useful for you guys, and I'm doing quite a bit of talking, but I don't care. Yeah, so actually, you know what, let me show you what I got going on. I have a 2x10. You're like, Jesus Christ, Bolo, why you got a 2x10? This piece is actually gonna go up here where it divides the bus here, because I am building a partition here that closes out the front from the back. But mainly why I'm actually using a 2x10 is because in the corner behind the driver's seat, that's where my battery bank is going. if you guys know anything about AGM batteries, those motherfuckers weigh like 70 to 80 to 90 pounds. I had two in my, in my black conversion van that I built, and that motherfucker just sagged. Two, I am thinking of going with at least 2 minimum. Love to have 3. 4 is out of the question because your boy Bolo Biggs don't make that kind of money. But ideally, I'd love to have 4, really. But that's where a lot of weight is going to be sitting. And talking about my battery bank real quick, and that's where my electrical panel is going to be also for my solar system. That's actually where my electrical panel, my solar system is going to be running through, and obviously my battery bank. I wanted to have it behind the driver's seat because if I had it in the back, it'll always feel like I'm towing it. If I have it in anywhere further than that, it's gonna feel like I'm always pushing the weight. I wanted the batteries to ride along with me, feel like it's riding along with me, and it's very strong in this upper area. Okay, back to the wood. So I got my 2x6. They're 8-footers. Obviously, I'm gonna cut it down. My 2x4s. Now the difference in color is just the brand, but it's actually just the same wood. The company, 2 different companies. But I got all this from Home Depot. Shout out to Home Depot, the orange folks. Really helpful folks. At least the ones where I'm at. 2x3s. I got 4 of those. I'll show you where those will go. And that's an 8-footer. My 2x4x10. I'll show you where that goes. I got a few of those. And this really long one is actually a 16-footer 2x4. And what is hidden under here is actually my ceilings. The wood, it's tongue and groove. It's select wood. And the reason why I'm covering it is because I didn't really want it to pick it up yet. And I was worried about the sun hitting it all day and it curling up on me. The reason why I wasn't gonna get that for at least weeks, maybe in a month out. However, I've been researching so long, asking questions, visiting folks' site, visiting folks' channel, and just getting their opinion. And I've come to the conclusion I'm never gonna get the perfect ceiling. I wanted to do one long stretch run, but I would have to get a 16-foot tongue and groove. Would have to get a 16-footer tongue and groove. And my buddy, he does carpentry, Marcus. He does carpentry, he does contracting. He's like, that shit's gonna cost you. I think it priced out to like $45 to $50 something per panel for a 16-footer. Home Depot, I've been watching it. The one that I got, the select tongue and groove 12-footer, is discontinued. It was on clearance. Kept passing it. I was like, man, I don't really want a 12-footer, and so on and so on. So I picked up 3. I bought 3 because I wanted to stagger it to see how well it did around the curve of the bus. And looking at it, it actually worked out because there's sections on the bus where I have to chop it anyway. Just because my partition and the bedroom situation with the wall. I figured if I chop it, where I chop it at is back in the back where the bedroom is, because when I put the wall up, it's gonna hide the connection between the top ceiling in the back and the front ceiling all the way to the front. So long story short, I had to go ahead and get it because if I bought 10 or 15 or 20, it's discontinued on clearance. If I go back in a few weeks, it might be all gone. Then I'll have a mismatched ceiling. So I was like, fuck it, let me just buy it. I bought 50. I think I calculated it out to, last night I picked up 54. The previous day I picked up 3. So I have 57 total pieces. And it was on clearance for I think it was like $8 and change, whatever. Yes, you think it was expensive, but the true price on it is actually like $13, $14 each. I had to get it. That solves that problem. And I'm just gonna put it in my box truck around the corner until I need it, so to get it out of the weather, out of the environment. I'm pretty happy with that, man. Shout out to the folks in Orange again. What else? Oh, let's go over tools real quick, guys. I'm actually gonna be working a lot by myself, and it's gonna be a pain in the ass to hold the lumber up. So I have these quick grips that'll hold things in place while I drill and hold it down. Some zip lines. This plate here is actually for carpenters. It helps you size real quick. It helps you trace. It helps you measure squares. This here is a clamp that holds your plywood down to the exact line, and what you do is run your saw along it, and it'll help you do a perfect line. I can't cut for shit with a circular saw. It takes off on me. You're supposed to guide it and it's supposed to give you a nice line. I can't do it. So I use this, clamp it to my plywood. You got to know your distance for your circular saw in order to be precise on your line. And then you just ride it along this metal piece. I got all my screws, my bolts, wood to metal, metal to wood, metal to metal. I got it all different sizes. I got another case of screws that I've just collected throughout the years, decks, wood to wood, and so on. My circular saw. Now this is what I was talking about, guys. If you change the depth from your blade to your rail here, as long as you know what your measurement is for what you want to cut. See, like mine here, I know from the blade to this line, which is where your measurement is, I know that I have to be off by 1 inch and 3/8, and I'll be right on the line that I trace. So what you do, I'll show you guys that later. Shit, I got my jigsaw. Got to put a brand new blade. Same thing with that, so you get clean cuts. Check it out, man. I need a step stool because my short ass can't get on the bus without freaking climbing on my knees. I feel like a little kid. Yeah, 4'17", guys. That's all the height I got. Anyways, got all my cordless drills. I don't like to switch from a drill bit to a screw to a nut, so I use all my cordless, all my attachments at once. I got my sledgehammer because I'm gonna show you what I do with that later, because I need to imprint the screws and the bolt heads in certain areas so that I can drill it out so that it sits flat. I got my T-square. I got my angle square. This here, this level here, this level here, throw that shit out. There is absolutely nothing on your fucking bus that is level. Get it out of your head and just go with the flow. The reason why I say that, guys, your bus is not level. Your vehicle is not level. I don't give a fuck what anybody tells you. God, you fucking chopper. There's nothing leveled about your bus. Even if you take it to a level parking lot, you have to assume that your bus is level to begin with, right? It could be off, wear and tear, tire pressure. The best thing to use when you're dealing with this bus build, what is the number one consistency that's constant? Your bus is squared. Your framing is squared. That's what they did good on. Everything about it is squared. That's why you have to rely on your T-square, your sharp ruler, your angle square. Because when you start framing and you start doing so and so on, the constant is your floor is always going to be flat. Your wall frame is always going to be flat. Now, assuming when you build out, that you're doing it properly. So, when you want to know how to build your wall, say in the middle, if you use a square and your floor is flat, you know where your runner is going up. If you keep that at a 45 and 90 degree, 90 and 45 degree, and it's always consistent, and you're always using the triangle, you're always using your T-square, you're always going to be correct on your leveling. Same thing goes with your cabinet. You can't use a leveler. You can use a square. So just real quick, like your cabinet, right? Everybody's worried about their framing. Wherever you come off the window or your ceiling area, you're worried about where your 2x4 framing goes. If you use a nice T-square, or even build a fucking rectangle box, if you lay it in the middle of the floor, you have to be perpendicular or parallel to that. And you can use your squares to figure out where your shit should be tilting or not tilting. Okay, shit, I've talked enough. Yeah, I wasn't gonna build this motherfucker in one day. I tell you that, got that much. Yeah, I'm gonna try to, I'm gonna clean up a little bit. I'm gonna try to get as much into the box truck before it starts raining. Yeah, I'm whatever I don't address, I'm gonna address in the next episode. I knew this was gonna take at least a couple of episodes, if not 3. Doesn't look like I'm gonna be able to outrun the rain, guys. It's coming. Alright. I threw some of the wood back in, and then I threw my tongue and groove into the box truck. Let's get back to this real quick. So this is gonna be my first piece of wood that I lay down. It's a 2x6. Again, my floor is soft, guys. That's why I'm going with this. I would normally measure this and then cut it, but my corners are such a weird shape and such a weird bend from some of the fabrications. I'm not gonna get the perfect cut. So what I've decided to do was shove it into the corner and just kind of line it up to eyeball it. Again, this is not something you would normally do. So my first cut, it's gonna be here. So I would normally just mark it, and I'm off by about 1/8, and then just use my angle square, and this will give me a perfect square cut. Then I would just trace it. Now keep in mind, guys, I'm gonna use a really sharpened pencil when you're doing your lines. I only use Sharpies because I'm just dotting them, and I'm just used to eyeing it. But yeah, try to use a pencil. Measure twice, cut once, or I don't remember what George said. Measure that shit, cut it, whatever, or something. And I got to mention, guys, some of the screws I'm using. These are tech screws. It's a little bit more expensive, but I've always used it in the past, and it's easy to work with. They don't strip as quick. These are screws, kind of like deck screws, that can penetrate metal also. Again, the screws are up to your preference. What I absolutely don't like in our application, and I always refer to the application because it's weird, it's different, it's not traditional. I absolutely do not like using a nail gun or nails in general for our application. It's a moving object, and it's gonna work its way out. Your nails are gonna work its way out. Now, the only time I probably would use it in here is for trimming purposes, like those fine nails. But even then, I'm not a fan. Your bus is constantly moving, so your nail is gonna work its way out. I'm a huge fan of using screws. Yeah, so just like your patio, your deck patio, if you go outside barefoot and it was done with nails, you'll actually kick a nail head, and yeah, you'll be cursing at whoever did it. But yeah, that's my main reason why I use screws instead of nails, especially in a moving vehicle. You got to keep that in mind on anything you put in your bus, any fabrications you do, any hanging or things like that. Is it gonna how's it gonna be affected when the bus is moving, when the bus hops? Which actually leads me to the next thing. I see a lot of folks drilling from the top down into your metal. I'm not saying you guys are doing it wrong. It's not my preferred way of doing it. Again, a moving object. The only other person that I saw do differently on how they installed their framing for their floor was the gentleman from Heat Seekers. You have to check out his channel. It's Heat, H-E-A-T, Seekers, S-E-E-K. I'll put it at the bottom. He's the only other person that I know addressed his floor differently. He actually anchored his down. He drilled through his wood. I forgot what the hell that name is. He routed out the top a little bit so that the bolt sat below the flat part of the wood. And then he bolted it from the bottom with a I think he used a washer and a nut. I'm not gonna go with the same concept as his. On certain areas, I'm gonna come from underneath. And the reason why I want to do that is when I was taking the bus apart, the screws and the nails, I don't know why they use nails, that they shot through the floor, the panel floor. There was nothing to hold it from the bottom. If you guys recall, the only thing that they secured down was the seats with the bolts up top and then the nut on the bottom. But everything else just went right through the metal, sheet metal. Nothing to secure it down. I don't like that concept. So certain areas, 90% of the areas that screws that I'm gonna put in are gonna come from underneath, and it will secure the 2x4s, wood in general, down. Fasten it down versus holding it down. So the reason behind that is, say you drill down into the sheet metal with your wood, with your screw or nail. It's not held down. So just imagine if your floor is completely done and you anchor your 200-gallon water tank, or your refrigerator, or your propane tanks, and so on. Again, this is if you go from the top down. It's barely holding onto the sheet metal. So if you hit a bump, whatever is anchored down to your floor is gonna get lifted. So it's gonna bounce, and it's gonna pull the floor with it. So if you aren't anchored down properly, through time, it's eventually gonna work the hole bigger. And you got to remember, it's a really thin sheet of metal, and through time you're gonna loosen it. I don't even know any other way to kind of give you example as far as like refrigerators and things like that, but just hope you guys understand what I mean by that. So if you got a heavy weight object anchored to your floor, and you hit a bump, just imagine being like Hercules, grabbing your 200-gallon tank. So when you hit a bump, jerk it up, like if you're Hercules. So every time you hit a bump, that's the action you're gonna get. It's gonna, all that heavy weight is gonna jump. The only way to combat that, in my opinion, what I'm doing, what I'm used to, let me show you guys real quick. So this is, ow. Imagine if this is your floor, and this is your 2x4 or 2x3, and you drill down. So if you drill down, you see that screw there? It's not anchored to anything other than your sheet metal. So if this was your refrigerator or 200-gallon water tank, if this is anchored down to your plyboard, which is tied down to your 2x4, you hit a bump, naturally the weight, the 1,000 pounds, is gonna lift up, and it's gonna jerk the floor with it upwards. At some point, you're gonna unplug that from the sheet metal. Now you take the same concept, this other side that I've demonstrated up. So this is your floor, your sheet metal floor. Basically that's what it is, it's metal floor. This is your 2x4 on top. If you crawl underneath the bus, as long as you know and mark it correctly, if you drill upwards, I'm gonna flip this over. So if you drill upwards and make a hole, you can actually anchor the bus up top. And I have a washer here, and I have a screw nut, and all I've done is anchor it upwards. Now you're gonna just bouncing this back and forth. I can tell from the strength. Again, this is one of those strength tests. I can barely get that off. Now this screw that I normally see is screwed down from the top through the sheet metal. You see, that's not really strong. Again, a 200-pound, 200-gallon tank is gonna at some point rip your entire floor when it hits a big bump, because that screw there is just held by that tiny piece of sheet metal. Now, and vice versa, this this screw with the washer, the floor is anchored to everything up top. Does that make sense? So yeah, that's where I am able to. 90% of what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna be anchoring from the bottom. And out on this storm, it's starting to dribble on me already. It's supposed to rain all tomorrow, and then I think all the way up to midweek, like serious storms. Yeah, this concludes part 1 of framing. I haven't even dressed the wall framing yet, or the ceiling. But I hope you guys were able to get some usage out of this long ass video of talking and going over framing. Well, the floor part of it. Yeah, hang in there, guys. Be good to each other. Your boy Bolo Big loves you. Yeah, I got nothing else. You boys out. Deuces. Hey guys, before I go, shout out to my man Johnny at Johnny Mullet. His channel is Johnny Mullet. So his old lady, his wifey, had him paint the Thomas built emblem red. I painted mine a while back. I thought about going red. I'm glad I didn't go red now, because Johnny took it. But so you see how I have that new light there? It was off balance. So I ordered one because I ordered another one because I was always going to put Thomas underneath. So when the license plate light is lit, that one's lit also, and it shines real nice. All right, so that's what we're looking like. Hey, go ahead and turn on the light, man. Dude. Oh yeah, I'm the only one here. So we got my license plate there. What? Let me find out. Thomas built? What? Yeah.